happens is the first show about a region, it'll be almost more about you and how you got into living Greyhawk in the RPGA and how you worked your way up to become Triad and then for you Circle.
Yeah.
And then we talk high-level overview of the region, the plots,
the campaign arcs and stuff like that.
The geography, what you took from canon, what you nuked from canon, and things will come back in the conversation.
Yeah.
I don't have a list in front of me of like answer these 12 questions. We're just gonna go where the conversation takes us.
Cool anecdotes.
We'll jump in. Jay will jump in.
Yes, I may not that questions. Much tonight. This may be the most quiet I've ever been.
Sure, and obviously, I think right in canon, Veluna's biggest thing is the Flight of Fiends, Canon Hazen.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, what I'll probably first say is that it's probably the weirdest region to get because it's probably the most peaceful region.
I was just going to say that would be one of the questions, obvious question. What do you do when it's like getting the Shire or something? It's like nothing.
I was trying to describe that to my wife. I was like, I think Veluna is like, I don't know if it's France or England or whatever, but it was like mostly peaceful.
Yeah, it's very kind of
Well, you're on the border.
So that'll be good fun.
Didn't you guys do stuff jointly with Bissell though? I thought for the Bissell people.
At the very end.
Oh, okay.
Like that's the part I wanted Lynn and some of the other guys because I was deep in the circle.
Yeah.
Dave's got a steel trap for a memory.
Yeah, but that came in at the very end. I was reading some stuff today because at the end of my circle campaign, I took over. I was running 2 regions basically at the very end. I took over. I think Steve Conforti still was there, and he couldn't do it. So they asked me if I would. So I started doing every single region of Geoff, Keelan, and doing all their mods. And I did all of the Veluna one, the VTM one. So
I've been trying to get Conforti to come on as well.
Yeah. I know he was having. I don't know exactly what was going on. So I was basically I was doing like so many Avengers, cranking them out, where I wasn't even really eating a ton of them. I was just looking at the ARs to make sure it wasn't anything wonky.
Yeah, I mean that's the editing that happened in the final years was you can't have an intelligent in the PK. This was what Chris Tulloch told us. No, you can't have an intelligent 9 Lives Stealer on an AR. We're like, no one's gonna be able to afford it anyway. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean at the end, I remember. At the end, as far as the last couple of ones, we didn't really care, if I remember right. Like, at the end, it was like, I remember you being able to pull out all the canon people too, if you wanted to, Big B and all that.
Yeah, they just quit caring, and absolutely. That's just the way it was. Sheldomar Valley ARs were always insane compared to the rest of Living Greyhawk, so you may have toned down their access.
Well, the last year, I probably did some stuff. Like, because I took over, because I remember having, when I was doing the circle, I remember meeting Steven, conjured me and was like, oh yeah, do you want another region? That was Steve. And I was just like, okay. And I was like, I was going to work on all that stuff. Because Steve came in later, and because it went with Cosmet.
So we've had Chris Slater, John Dawes, and Corey Flagel on for a Zeif show, or Zeif show, back on episode 48. And we talked also with the Australians about, I think, their pitch for Zeif, was it?
It might have been, yeah.
But they did not get it. I'd have to check those notes again.
No, it was like Vancouver and all that. Out there.
Right, that's where John, Chris, and all of them are in Canada. They got it, but someone else had made a pitch for it before him, or briefly had it.
Yeah, I think that's what Steven said. It didn't last. They went to there because I also had Ekmir, and that was all in French for the most part. I don't speak French, so they always sent. But I'd have them send some stuff in English. The ARs were all in English, and then he translated back so I could see at least what they're doing, but they didn't. It was only usually one person. I can't think of the name of the person off the top of my head, but it was just like they didn't have too many adventures really.
I'm not sure we've gotten anyone from Ekbeer into our secret Discord group.
I got sent something, so I can probably go back and see if I can find it somehow. The guy,
yeah, but that's all circles. Yeah, the circles. So there's a lot of stuff I was doing with all that. But...
Lynn, I'm Casey.
Lynn.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome.
Well,
thanks for joining us.
I'm not picking up any noise from my speakers, but I can hear you through my computer.
There you go.
Okay.
Oh, well, keep playing with your audio settings. We're in the pre-show.
Yeah.
Do you have? If you have Twitch up, you'll see we're in the ads, or well, you can see it in.
Yeah.
How's it going, Lynn?
Long time no see, huh?
Yep, that's what I was telling him. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Turned into a gray beard when you weren't looking.
Oh, I've got gray hair as well. We were all young.
We were all very young, and we all had a lot more free time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's for damn sure.
My son let me borrow his equipment so I can, because my computer is strictly for internet access.
Troll Lord
I do enough computer stuff.
Join the fray.
I don't want to do any of that at home. I'm gonna play on the Xbox if I want to do something video-wise.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you could join us.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim notified me about 3 hours ago. Early warning.
Way to go, Tim. It worked.
Well, I asked him for the Meta Award stuff, and they said a couple days ago, and then I was just like, and then Dave said he couldn't get on. I was like, well, wait a minute, maybe I can ask the rest of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can go over the Meta Awards in a future show.
I'm sorry, I did ask Dave Kirscher and Brian Gudbranson to join us. It seems like that Dave's going to watch the Twitch show.
Okay.
I didn't get any feedback from Brian.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
tell them, whenever you get in touch with them, to reach out to me on Discord or in the Twitch. I'm Ardrico everywhere. And I'll send them the secret Discord link where we have what I call the Living Greyhawk Survivors group for the Triads and Circle members. And that way we can all stay in touch easier on Discord. And it's very low traffic, right, Tim?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what everyone's scared of, is that I'm trying to get them onto some high traffic channel. Like, we ain't got time for that. We all got jobs. You know?
Yeah. I figured, Lynn, you'd be on, because like I was telling them earlier, it's like I don't really remember the last couple of years because I was heavy into the Circle stuff, and you would probably remember more about after the Canon Harrian stuff.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember the Misanthropic episode? Do you remember that?
There's a lot of stuff. Maybe if you tell me about it, I probably will.
We had a local cheater that decided that he wanted to use 10-sided dice for cure lights, and all kinds of interesting stuff. It ended up very poorly for his group. They played in a meta reach that I had written, and they were the reason we play test. It ended poorly for them. And then I got called a misanthropic DM and shouldn't be allowed anywhere near a gaming table.
I think I vaguely remember that. That part I do remember. Yeah, there was. Have you talked with Jeff Richards at all?
Yeah, not in the last decade.
Okay.
I was involved in his gaming group for a guest spot where I showed up and played a backbiter. They didn't realize I was a plant. By Jeff ended up betraying the party.
Nice.
His wife even crocheted me a dice bag that said I betrayed the party.
Nice. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Jeff helped us a lot right after I left and everything. They all came in.
Well, it's good. I'm glad you guys could reconnect. One of the great things about this show, we've been doing them with Jay something like 3 years, and Anna and I had done 1 or 2 maybe like 4 years ago, is that we can all reconnect. And even though I didn't say no, Tim and Lynn, the audience can hear this, back in the day we maybe communicated on the old Yahoo groups. I probably pissed you off on the old Yahoo groups once I became a Triad member, because I was always pissed off about how the Circle or SRM was handling something. So I was very vocal and very obnoxious and annoying. I really haven't changed much. I just have 4 cats now, just to be fair. But anyway, so it's neat and you two get to reconnect, and it looks like we have another person joining us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Avon Avengers. Yep, 4 cats. I had 2, she had 2. We were like the Brady Bunch. We now have 4.
Yeah, how did the cats get together? Did they get a happy marriage too, or?
Not really.
That's my guess is that the cats probably didn't like to get together move in with each other as much as you guys did. Yeah.
Yeah, Stella, who makes frequent appearances on the show, she's here with me.
Nice.
She's just not a cat. She's daddy's cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I see the campaign source book or the gazetteer, the one I originally sent you. That one is like the really old one.
Because I can't find my mixer that puts it audio and video, audio and voice.
At least we got audio. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other half.
But yeah, it's because that one was like the role playing, I would say, gazetteer, and then their other one, and Lynn could attest to this. The other one was we went all out. It was crazy, or they did at least.
It's neat. I haven't dove too much into the documents of all the other regions. I just haven't had that kind of time. But whenever I do, it's neat seeing how each different region or meta region approached the same problems in the same rule sets that we all had. We've had Vernon from Verbabunk on quite a bit. He talks about the town project, you know, and how
that was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And we adopted parts of it in the BK. In the BK, we took the Iconics and we morphed that into a mercenaries book in which you could have 6th level, 8th level, 4th level NPCs, you know, join your party when you were just 4, I think, maybe even 5 at a table.
Okay, I got you.
To help, you know, bolster you. And each of those NPCs was from one of our meta orgs. So they were specifically built, you know, to be part of the region instead of Miali and Redgar and all the other Iconics.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it'll be neat to hear what you guys did.
Unfortunately, I didn't run the meta org. It's Brian's job.
How about now?
Whoa.
There you go.
Good evening, everyone. I have COVID bad, so just note it's getting worse. So my wife and I have it. I'm doing my best here. We'll get through this. I can just sit here, and Casey talks a lot anyway, right? So
that's fair.
We'll be okay. We have a mystery guest here, Samsung SM. I don't know. Do either Tim or Lynn? Do you know who it is?
No, I don't.
Uh-oh.
Do they speak Russian? Because we could be in trouble.
Yeah, if they speak Russian, my Russian is a bit rusty, so yeah.
6 feet from the mic. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I'm J.K. Lorgazamba with me on these great living Greyhawk. Here comes Mike Disney in too, so we got another massive raid in. We got as always Anna Meyer and Casey Brown as Greyhawk. Mike is usually off on these shows now. And we had a great raid in from Blue Box just recently, and thank you all. Here are our special guests tonight. So we're going to talk about Living Greyhawk, Veluna, who we've not had yet. So we have Tim Sec and Lynn Register. Welcome both. And we have Sam. We don't know who Samsung SM. I know they invited a couple other people from, so maybe we'll find out eventually who that is. So, but thank you so very much for everyone coming in. Like I said, I'm going to be quiet a lot of this time.
You're getting a retirement present.
What is that? Is that a shirt or a patch or?
Yeah, hold that up.
Hold that up, Lynn.
It's actually a favor.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
My son's in a reactant group, and he uses this on his belt. I will show you one other little tidbit. When I retired from the military, I got a present from my fellow triad members, and my son's trying to detach it from the wall at the moment.
Oh,
cool.
What service were you in, Lynn?
Realize how hard it is to remove.
I don't think you.
So a shirt a bear, or as I say, ass hurt the bear. Veluna represent in Columbus, Ohio. Here, are you all from Ohio? Oh, there it is.
Oh, you got the shield.
Got the shield.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And the fellow triad member actually painted this for me.
Oh, okay.
To me
it's a reproduction.
on my post-production.
Yeah.
So that's not one of the ones from Gen Con.
No, I have it. I think Dave said it. Gave that to me, but I don't. It's in my friend's gaming group where I game at. So.
Oh, nice.
But yeah,
it's in my hallway with the three holy weapons from the group: sword, hammer, and an axe.
All right, Casey, take it away on questions here. I'm just gonna chill.
All right. Well, let's just do our introductions.
Yes.
how we typically start the show. Hi, I'm Casey. I'm former Bandit Kingdoms Triad member, and I wrote a book. I'll just keep it simple today. $9.95 on Amazon. Anna, your turn.
Well, yeah, I'm Anna Meyer, and I've been mapping Greyhawk for well over 20 years now, and it's been an obsession of mine, so to speak, and now it's kind of a job too. So I've worked full-time doing Greyhawk maps and other maps for a bunch of other game settings and publishers and stuff like that too. So and I'm just love Greyhawk. I've been gaming in Greyhawk for almost like 40 years, and I was not part of the Living Greyhawk campaign because I lived in Sweden back then, and just become a member of the RPGA was difficult enough, and I never really made it into it. But I kind of paid from a distance, and a lot of people kept sending me material and stuff that I incorporated into my maps as the campaign progressed. So now it's so cool to meet people behind the campaign that actually made it happen. So great. Yep.
And Tim and Lynn, why don't you both introduce yourself, talk a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in Living Greyhawk for Luna.
All right, I'll go. Basically, I started with my group way back. We went to Gen Con 2000, decided let's get in this living campaign. And I was like in the early 20s, and we just went nuts for the first 2 years. And I kept bugging Dave about questions, about doing everything Veluna. And then when he stepped up to the circle, I decided to become the triad. And then eventually I moved up to the VTF Meta Regional. And then eventually when Dave took over running the cons, I went to the circle. But I mean, I traveled all over for Living Greyhawk. I went to Vegas. Our group went to Vegas, Iowa, down way south to Georgia, Alabama. So I mean, we traveled a ton because we loved it so much. And but then I decided I liked writing and adventures and everything, getting really involved with there, and so that's why I decided to go full bore with that, and just being involved with the whole thing and creating everything is what got me really excited for it. And even though I couldn't play the adventures anymore, that was fine.
So let me ask you real quick, and Jay, you see the messages from our guests?
I did. I risked it, but normally I open them up a chance of crashing the stream there, so I won't open up anymore. David Kersher. David Kersher. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Just contact
so we have we have another Veluna Triad member joining us, which is awesome. But so Tim, what year was it that you started playing? Did you do Living City or any other? How'd you get into the RPGA?
No, I did not do Living City. One of my friends, I played second edition with the group for a long time, and one of my friends happened to get the RPGA newsletters, and we just saw that third edition was starting, and we'd never been to Gen Con. So we're like, okay, let's go ahead and do this and go up there as he's going on there. And so basically what happened was we decided to go up there, and we went to Milwaukee and walked in, got our RPGA numbers, bought the books, and then went down into the basement area and created a third edition character.
Oh, wow.
And not knowing anything, and then went and played Dragon Scales at Morningtide, and we did
probably
not play
River of Blood.
I did not play that one because I remember specifically that one because my monk became a were-rat, and I actually survived the entire time in my entire playing career, where I many times escaped 3 times from Temple of Elemental Evil and High Folk, and nobody ever caught me because I was a monk and I ran too fast.
Is that Eric Mona's River of Blood?
Yeah,
someone's running it at Greyhawk Con.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
So Tim, that was 2000, right? Gen Con premiere.
Yep, it was the premiere of everything. Yep, and that's what again. None of us knew anything about how an RPGA was run, but we all basically became addicted to it.
That's awesome. And then we'll circle back to this in a little bit because we're gonna go meet David and Lynn, but. How long until you became author, triad member, etc.?
It was year 2 is when me and a friend wrote that It's a Kind of Magic, and then I wrote, I think, Under Blood Red Sky. I think was the other one, year 2, and then I think year 3 is probably when I became a triad member. I think is what it was. Yeah.
You remember when you became Circle?
That was in 2004, maybe. Yeah, because I lived in there. There's a story behind that one, but yeah, I can.
All right, we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Lynn, how did you get involved in Living Greyhawk RPGA, you know, Dungeons and Dragons Greyhawk history?
Oh, I've been playing for a while, and I came back from overseas and moved into Nebraska and went to the same Gen Con 2000 and played my first RPGA member there as a Diverian or diver, however they say divers person. We spent 2 years in divers, and then I moved to Ulick down in Florida as a military person, and then wrote my first intro mod down in Ulick. And then in 2005, moved up to Ohio. I'm having brain dead. Moved up to Ohio, got involved as a player, and then Jeff Richards in year 5 asked me to write this module called The Reaping, which had to deal with Canon Harrion.
Yep.
And I helped him write half the module, and shortly after that was asked to be his replacement as the POC for Veluna.
So in year 5?
In year 5, yes. So I was a POC from 2005 to 2008.
Till the end of the campaign.
Correct. I wrote the season finale, the finale for me and Dave wrote the finale for Veluna.
Awesome. And before we go to Dave, I'll just explain to the audience there were 3 triad members for each region. Not every region used this system, but typically there was a point of contact who would handle questions from the player base, a meta org coordinator or special events coordinator, and the plots guy who was in charge of the overall plots. But in most regions, it seems like the 3 would talk about the plots and they would all author modules or edit modules. So it sounds like you guys had a fairly similar setup.
Yes.
And then Dave or David, what do you prefer?
Either one's fine.
Hey, I'm Casey. I'm from the Bandit Kingdoms. Thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, welcome.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, Lynn just told me about it earlier today, so I was like, oh,
Hey, that's the way to do it.
Yep, that's great.
All right.
I told you about 20 minutes after Tim told me.
Oh, there you go.
That's funny.
That'll work.
We've had some last minute guests in the past couple of months. Like I got the book author pretty quickly.
We had Steve and Randy McFarlane and Eric Mona like within the last 30 minutes of the show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
a
just
couple weeks
popped in.
ago.
Yep. Mhm.
So yeah, no, it's great. So it sounds like you and Lynn were triad at the same time, David.
Yeah, I got recruited into Triad by Jeff when Tim went up to the circle. And Tim went up to the circle and another Triad member left. And so
Chris Johnson.
yeah, Jeff got Chris and me on board as Triad. And then a year or so later, that was in like 2003, 2004. When Tim went up to circle, so that was 2004. And then like I said, Lynn got involved with writing. And then when Jeff was going to step down, we got Lynn hooked up into the Triad.
So how did your early Greyhawk start?
I've been playing for so long, and that's just what I grew up with. Playing Greyhawk was the world. There wasn't one of the worlds. It was the place to play D&D in.
Exactly.
So that's just what I knew. And then when I found that the RPGA was doing LG in 2000, I don't think I started right away. It's in 2000. I think I picked it up a little bit later than that for various reasons. Joined in and loved the idea. And actually, maybe it was 2000 now that I'm thinking about it. I think I've done other stuff, but joined in, loved that. And, played a lot with people around Central Ohio.
And for the audience, Living Greyhawk was a living campaign. You could take your player, or your character rather, to multiple judges, not in the same state, not in the same country, anywhere that had a sanctioned Living Greyhawk event. You could theoretically play the same character depending on if the adventure supported that level of PC. That's the easiest way of explaining it. So each region was localized. Bandit Kingdoms was Texas and Oklahoma, and Veluna, you guys can tell me. I know it was Ohio, right? Just Ohio. See, okay. That would have been my region because I was born in Cincinnati, but I didn't end up staying in Cincinnati. So,
yeah, we were just Ohio was Veluna, but we were surrounded by like 4 or 5 other regions because of geographical location. So we got a lot of crossover from people coming through. People could go to
To the
Pennsylvania,
north,
Kentucky,
Indiana.
Indy, Michigan.
Yeah, that's kind of why I think it was like the hotbed, and that's kind of why all the conventions were nearby, and Indianapolis, and well, moved down to there, and obviously Origins in Columbus. But I mean, it was like so easy as a player, it was so easy to jump in and play like you said, like 4 different regions, and then and then just go a different way. So it was been crazy how big the conventions were.
I'll just run through your neighboring regions real quick for the audience. So you guys were in Ohio. So Pennsylvania is next door. That's Keelan.
Yep.
Right. And then you have, let's see, Illinois and Indiana was Verbabonk.
Yeah.
Michigan was Furiundi. You know, that right there is a ton of play opportunities.
Kentucky was Yeomanry.
Oh, Kentucky was Yeomanry, right? Yeah. Those people. Yeomanry went from like Kentucky all the way down to the Gulf Coast.
And then I think West Virginia, I forget what they were.
West Virginia was Joff.
Yeah, so there you go. That's why it was crazy. That's
wow. And in Texas, we're 800 miles away from other states at some points. We would do cross regionals with Yeomanry that made no sense, but I'll get into that stuff later. And David, you were year 4 triad, so you and Lynn were triad together.
Mm-hmm. So sorry, audience myself.
That's all right. So what would be the Living Greyhawk overarching view of Luna? What did you guys take from the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer and canon? What did you nuke? Just kind of maybe go over the high level plots. Obviously, we were talking about the Flight of Fiends and Ken and Hazen earlier with Tim. But what would be the typical adventure in Veluna like?
Well, Veluna was a theocracy, and it was head up by 3 major religions. Now, realizing, of course, this is like 17-year-old memory, so bear with me. Saint Hieronymus, Saint Cuthbert,
Rao.
And Rao.
The main one, yeah.
Step in any time, man. Okay.
Annoyingly lawful, it sounds like.
That's correct. We had
that was the basic.
I think we had in Meta.org that actually could let you be a member of the clergy, recognized, and you had some extra powers if you were a member of the clergy.
So what did these clergy want the adventurers to do for them in Veluna?
Well, the first 3 or 4 years, it was set up that the Lynn mentioned it briefly. Harrion was the big bad guy that they were working towards, and he was an ex-canon who had turned to a lich and was working behind the scenes. And in early years, you didn't know what was going on. You were learning about stuff. He was growing in power, and you were finding things out, whatever. And eventually, that all built up to was it year 3 or 4 with a war that Harrion started a war, and so we had a war. Well, obviously, the first 3 or 4 years of leading up to that, finding information about that, building up to that, and then we had the war thing, and then from that point, we kind of flipped it. It was some more generic stuff. There wasn't so much a one plot point to go towards, but we tried to play up yes, this is a very lawful society. This is a very theocrat, but we wanted to put some questions in there about that, so that there were maybe some missions that people were sent on that they had to think about a little bit. And is this really for good? Is this really good? Is what the church wants, what's good for the whole thing, not setting it up that was bad, but setting it up that there could be some questions about it. So that's kind of where we took it after the big war. But the big build up to the war was the main thing.
And we had this fascination with the village of Chandelanar.
Yeah, you did.
We went to that village at least 3 or 4 times.
Where is that?
Hey, you can see the map. Yeah, the map was.
Whoops. Hey, Jay just hit the wrong button. Wrong button. All right. So where is it on this map?
South, I want to say.
It should be in the
I see it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that was used, like Lynn said, 3 or 4 times, and
was actually used in the finale.
If I recall, the first couple times there was a couple discrepancies within what was happening there. So then we kind of played with that. Then later, in later modules, and that we had like some kind of, and like Lynn said, 17-year-old memory here. There were some discrepancies early, so we kind of played with that and said there was some kind of chaos thing down there, and it was changing things, and so.
Yeah, what was Harrian fight? What was the war about? I'm not sure I caught that.
Okay, so basically what happened was and I think it was also Dave and I and Jeff Richards, and there's probably some people I'm forgetting, like Mark Middleton, I think was another one. And
I know Mark. He ran the Yahoo groups.
Yeah,
I met Mark.
Yeah, he wrote quite a few adventures for Veluna. Basically, so the first 2 years of Veluna was kind of, I don't want to say meander, but like I said, Veluna, exactly, when you get Veluna, you know, Fiorendi has the war with Ayus, and all these other regions have tough things, where ours, it specifically says it's a peaceful, law-abiding country. And it's like, so you're supposed to run adventures in this where everybody comes to Veluna to like kind of like seek peace and whatnot. So what we decided to do after that, probably start, I think towards the end of year 2, year 3, was have where the Flight of Fiends, and everybody like, you know, got rid of it. We said the Flight of Fiends didn't work as well as they thought. And it actually, and the church knew this and basically hid it, like a lot of governments do, and hid it away from everybody. And that the canon that did it way back when, Canon Harrian, was actually betrayed them. And also there was another, I think you guys came up with like Marduk was towards the end, I think, if you guys remember that one. But and so what he did is they kind of sealed away 3 rings, as well as his holy symbol fractured. And so he basically, a cult started coming up and an undead menace, and he turned himself into a lich. And so he was hidden to the side, and everything from started to corrupt the government from within. And we had a huge blowout where the PCs had to, I think, first forge the holy symbols, or at least try to stop them, and then get the rings. And I know there was a picture of them in one of the ventures, but basically it ended up where it was like a 2, and they may remember this, a 2 adventure, but not a 2-rounder. We had 2 adventures where you didn't get your AR after the first one because you couldn't level up, couldn't rest, couldn't do anything like that. Yeah, and I think it was like War of the Rings or something. I can't remember exactly.
You had to play the second adventure?
Yeah, right afterwards if you survived.
Oh, interesting.
Easy. Yeah, and you could not do, I don't know if we were one of the first, this is like year 4. So this is
I've never heard of that in Living Greyhawk. I've heard of that Pathfinder Society.
Yeah, it's so I don't know if it's one of those things where I just went to Dave and was just like, Dave, can we do this? He's like, sure. You know, he didn't care. And so like we were like, nope, you have to go right into the next adventure because there's no stopping it. And after that adventure, we had the interactive, which was the Siege of Mitrek, because the canon walks out there. He uses, I just read this today to remind myself, and then I came back to me. So the canon comes out, and everybody thinks that he's going to use the Cook of Rao to just basically banish and destroy Harrian. Well, the Cook of Rao basically was corrupted. And that's where I think the core adventure of the little boy with Dave had and everything else like that, if you remember any of that. But that's where that came from. And it doesn't work, and Harrian blows him to bits, basically. It blows the current canon away and disintegrates them. And then basically the PCs have to cover everybody's retreat, and they kill a bunch of like the knights and everything as like our big thing. And then it goes back to the interactive was the Siege of Mitrek, which the PCs helped save, but their main thing was to cover all these important people back to the town before it was besieged by all the forces of Harrian. And that's when I think Lynn and Dave kind of came in afterwards. But that was the big mid-season, if you will, of what happened.
That's wild, because the European triads on our Discord server have been talking about their year 6 or year 8, maybe end of campaign adventures. In core mod, we're talking about the Flight of Fiends was really not as successful as we were led to believe it was in canon, and that they were having plot lines about that. And it sounds like over in Europe, they just came up with this idea on their own. We didn't really have a lot of interconnectivity in Living Greyhawk between the regions, except at the meta-regional level. But, you know, who else was in?
Meta-regional, we had some stuff about it. but like I only dealt with Ekbeer, and like I said, I know they didn't really. I don't think they had anything to do with that. But the core region. But yeah, the whole Crook around not really doing well. It came from Veluna, and that's when Dave took off of that. And you had to get the Crook around had to be redeemed basically. And I believe at the very end they can remind. I think like you could sacrifice your character. I think it was or something like that. Yeah. And like and to help redeem the boy and the Crook, so that it would work.
There was something about that. I think it was in Dave's core.
Yeah.
See, we've got some of the.
That small boy. I remember it was like a boy, and he had a bunch of adventures about it. Yeah, towards the end, but it originally came from Veluna. Yeah.
We have some of the European triads in the audience tonight, and they're actually arguing about, yeah, we did, no, we didn't, yeah, we did, kind of in a friendly style. The Crook appears in Tasha's, right, in 5e. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and I think it has some sort of curse tied to it in Tasha's, and I think people were like, well, that's not canon, that doesn't sound right, but it sounds like you guys in Living Greyhawk were kind of ahead of the curve on that one.
Yeah, we all came, we needed some, we figured like having some like usual peaceful theocracy and whatnot, that there's got to be some dark edges to it and people hiding things, and so that's the route we went, because like most governments there's always something hidden there, or they're not telling you, and there's some corrupt people. And then I know Lynn and Dave could talk about this. I know what they did afterwards was obviously then they had to vote for who would be the new canon, because obviously this succeeded, and there's still remnants of Canon Harian's evil around, and then one of the areas seceded from Veluna because they went and declared themselves more righteous because all this corruption in the government and the theocracy and the church. They were like, no, we're right. And so they played on that, and they can explain more of that if they remember.
Dave, what was your specific role in the triad? Were you meta or plots or?
I started off as meta when Jeff got us on board with him. And then when Jeff and Chris stepped out, we kind of went more of a group effort thing.
Sure.
But I'd probably say I was probably plots if I had to pick one of those three.
Okay.
Now you're gonna put me on
mine.
I haven't reviewed anything for 20 years. So
You'll be surprised what comes back.
Yeah.
Cool. And Lynn, you had said you were point of contact, right?
Yeah, and I wrote a couple of modules.
yeah, well, we all wrote modules.
The personal incarnation of Gazrag, our leveled pit fiend that I statted out for the group.
What was that?
Gazrag was a leveled pit fiend that Canon Harian kept around.
Yeah, I forgot about
Oh.
3.5 stat blocks. I don't miss those.
Oh, that was insane. The stat block thing was just crazy. Like going through some of these adventures, it was just insane what you had to reprint and just have in there. That as reviewing and then writing the specials, it was insane.
Yeah, for the audience, like a Living Greyhawk adventure might be 40 pages. Might be like 8 pages of adventure and 32 pages of appendixes. Maps, but mostly stat blocks for the monsters, organized by average party level. So you might have the same monster, but you might have 3 different versions of them that 6th level, 8th level, and 10th level guys fight a different version.
Yeah, and Canon Harian, I think I might have sent that to you guys, but he was like CR 22, I think. That's what he was.
Yeah, I resetted him for the reaping as well. A couple people actually met him.
Yeah, I've got the stat block here. Oh God, this is the old big blocky stat block too. Before they got pretty. Yeah, CR 22, male lich, cleric 12, COMP 3. That's which prestige class is COMP?
There were so many.
Hierophant 2, Divine Oracle 2, Contemplative. That was probably your abbreviation for Contemplative. Pious Templar 1. Contemplative Pious Templar is a very cheesy combination. I applaud you.
Oh, we went with that, a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. My PC went with Contemplative Pious Templar.
Guys, right. Lynn's son.
3-point cheese.
Lynn was our cheese meister.
Every region has one.
Oh, yeah.
because every
I mean that in a good way.
region had players that had memorized the Monster Manual, the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Player's Handbook, all the supplements. They had all the splat books. Living Greyhawk had very specific character creation rules, but sometimes you could get access to some off-the-wall things. Fate Spinner was broken as hell. The spell Anticipate Teleportation was broken as hell. These are all options that came into the campaign. So there was an arms race between the triads and the players, I think, in many regions, because people who created powerful characters and parties would be very bored playing an average difficulty adventure.
That was the
Can you guys hear me now, by the way?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let's have
that was a-
Yeah, that was one of the things of, especially in Veluna, because every region had this when you DM'd and whatnot, is like you had some tables who were really into like maybe the role playing and seeing all the different nobles and priests and whatnot, and then you had the other ones who were
Min-max.
the min-max of like their druids. I forget what that one cheesy druid that can shapeshift into anything or wild shape into anything.
Right. Where is he?
Yeah.
You chip change into a 10-headed Hydra.
Yeah, and so you had to make them for both, but then you also had to know as a DM, like when to scale back, obviously.
Right.
I'll say this. So the Canonharian thing sounds pretty cool. A Lich guy sounds so much better than the antithesis to the Inferiority.
I don't remember what it was.
Vampire Thrommel. Come on, guys.
Oh,
yeah.
Vampire Thrommel, yeah. That's an
Thrommel,
inside
yeah,
joke
Thrommel.
on this channel because we had Jean Dubois, I think it was, from Furiundi on, and he was talking about Vampire Thrommel, and that just blew Jay's mind.
Yep. And we've been
Right.
teasing Jay every show about, so now Jay has internalized it and he teases
Yes.
himself, but
and
that's so it's
plus I feel-
perfect.
Yeah.
It's like, show us on the doll where the Vampire Thrommel touched you, Jay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mhm.
It's that
If you
bad.
If you get to talk to John again, ask him what his lowest will save was.
I
Yeah,
guess
because
you guys
all-
would have known him, right? He was up in Michigan.
Yeah.
We had a Midnight Madness at Gen Con, and he play tested a module and got stuck in a mind fog with his bard, and he got a -3 on his will save.
Nice.
Even mine too. Sorry. Yeah, I really.
I think it was
yeah.
like a -3.
But that map you have is one of the best maps I've seen of any region that he did, that Russell
okay.
Acre did. Yeah, that thing there.
No, that's Anna's map.
That's
That's my
Anna's
map.
Oh, that's
that
yours?
is based on that's his
Yeah, but
my
that's what I
map
love.
that is based on his map. So yep. Mhm.
Yeah.
So that Veluna looks that good. It's very much up to him. Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, that's yours, but that's what his looked like, I should say.
Yep.
That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yep.
I just brought up. Get through this a little bit. I just brought up your guys' tier. So this is from the beginning, written by
Yeah,
David
that's-
Christ.
Yep, that's the first one, I think. And Victor was there with Dave at the beginning, and then when I joined, it was Victor and I can't remember Chuck. Chuck James maybe I think was there, but Victor was there from the beginning, and then I think he wrote quite a few adventures in year 1 and 2, and then maybe in year 3. Then he left. But I know I don't think David Hurst. I think one of them. I think he might have left really early on, from what I remember. So it was really just Dave and Victor.
Mm.
And that's more of the, like I said, that one was more of the role playing one. But that's where I got a lot of like the sites and where to like write some of the ventures when I joined, at least, and using some of those people, because in the first couple of years, I mean, a lot of the stuff, I don't think, in my opinion, I mean, I didn't think they used a lot of like the NPCs that were listed in this, and so that was that's what I wanted to do, is bring in some of these things that people have read about and use them as NPCs, so people can be like, oh, look, that's there, and then
Right.
that's what I want to do.
It doesn't matter what campaign you're playing, home game or living campaign or Pathfinder Society, a recurring NPC helps glue the world and the story together, whether it's a bad guy or your superior officer, who tells you what to go and do. So that's a really, a good idea and gives the region flavor. Like,
Yeah, I
the
know.
people you're interacting with in your region sounded like lawful good goody two shoes, as we would say in the Bandit Kingdoms, and they're nice and trustworthy. You come to the Bandit Kingdoms, you're talking to the clerics of Ayuz who are just lying to you, trying to kill you, you know, threatening to kill your family members and all that. You know, it's flavor.
So
That-
the
yeah, that's
counties.
pretty-
I'm sorry, I apologize. Go ahead. My brain's
No,
off.
you're all right. That's pretty much what it was in the very beginning until the Harrion thing, Harrion happened, and then Lynn and Dave can say, like, once that happened and showed everybody the corruptness and the evil, then you had various forms of that afterwards and kind of broke it open, so it was able for us to do everything. Sorry about that.
It's okay. So the counties are called dioceses instead. It says dioceses and towns. Okay, that's neat.
It's a theocracy. They were broken into dioceses instead of counties or something like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you got notable NPCs here. So
Yeah, the bishop had purview over the diocese. He was
Here's a
just
question.
with the-
percent of player characters that were not human. Here.
I think probably, I'd say in the beginning, it was probably only a quarter, maybe less than 50%, like 50%, I would say easily. I don't think there were too many. I can't
Well-
think of it. There were a lot of elves, I think, but
Yeah,
What does the LGG, is Gary Holian in the audience?
I
I
don't think
haven't
so.
seen him yet.
There's a lot of
I
good
don't know.
detail.
Seen him.
There's a lot of good detail here in each for each diocese, which is good. You got a lot of key NPCs here. A lot of
yeah, they
you know,
did it.
Yeah, a lot of locations with actual population. That's good. That's very good.
There were a lot of dwarves. I do remember that. There were a decent
Because of the
amount
Lort
dwarves.
Mills, right? Because Lort
Yeah,
Mills, yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
That was-
interesting.
Yeah.
Because according to LGG, dwarves were only 2% of your population. But that's the cool thing about the living campaign.
yeah,
The
they
players were going to
just
play
in that-
whatever they wanted to play.
Yeah, they were just in that area, the mountains. That's it. And then most of the gnomes were probably near Burbabach, would be my guess.
We just had a question in the audience about where does one get this kind of stuff, and like I said, I'm not able to give this out. You got to ask the horses' mouths right, you know, themselves, or get lucky, or you know.
And
That's
think-
all I'll say.
I think the brief legal version of this is I think the regional gazetteers are fair game.
Yeah, I think so.
They were freely distributed. They're fan content made for the campaign. They often plagiarize other TSR and Wizards of the Coast publication stuff, or are very close to plagiarizing it, because who cares? You were doing it for Living Greyhawk. So if I quoted I use the evil and didn't give it an attribution, who cared? I think these things we probably can share. I think that's not like the adventures. You can't, because there's copyright issue.
No,
Okay.
yeah,
But-
the Gazetteer for sure, because I remember Dave
Okay.
at one of the conventions, he had them printed out, because I think I still have one of the original ones. It's in tatters, kind of, but yeah, so that's how I got it from there.
Yeah.
So that right there, I'm positive can be.
Okay.
Yeah, and also a lot of trials had websites back then that you could
Right.
download them that had them
Right.
in PDF form. So yeah.
the Yahoo group that Mark used to run had a lot of files on it that people would use.
Right. I mean, these are cats out of the bag. There's no copyright notification on the first page. The campaign management, SRM, Eric Mona, and whoever, the RPGA, they never came out and said, like, look, this is all going to be Wizards of the Coast owned content that you're writing. We didn't get paid to write these regional gazetteers. Triad members didn't get paid. Circle members got paid, but it wasn't a lot of money. So this was all fan work, and you know,
Cool.
something like
Here.
this gets shared. Cool.
Yeah, it was all basically just volunteer work because we
Okay.
love to do it.
Yeah. But it's the adventures. Everyone always asks for the adventures, and it is a violation of copyright to share them, even though those were sort of freely distributed in their home regions during a period of time lasting up to 2 years. It really doesn't make any sense, and Wizards of the Coast dropped the ball. That's a topic I've gone over on other shows
Yeah.
about how they should have just paid all the regional authors $1. It just said, you know, hey, thanks for your hard work. We appreciate it. You know, here's some minis or a coupon to our web store or something, whatever was being created, and then just call it a day. And then they would have owned all of the adventures. But
Yeah.
they don't. They don't own the regional adventures from year 3 and onwards. It's just ridiculous. And I think that's been part of the reason why we're not seeing Greyhawk and 5e, other than things like Ghosts of Saltmarsh, where they could take adventures from Dungeon Magazine, U1, U2, and U3, and put them in a book. That's my theory, and I can't get the legal department at Wizards of the Coast to reply to any of my emails. Neither can any of the grognards who continue to reach out to them.
Probably true.
Yeah. So Wizards, if you're watching, I'll give you $1,000 for the license to Greyhawk.
I doubt they're watching here.
Now we just start negotiating if they don't like that price.
So non-tolerated religions, very nice, and disliked. Ouija. Relishes, yeah, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, with this, I remember Anna could say with the Under a Blood Red Sky it was really wordy when I wrote this one. But basically what I did is at Castle Sefer, which became later became where Canon Harrion had it I guess his home base, if you will. But I had it where they were basically a nobles ball where you could meet almost every single one of these people there. And that thing was a massive thing that I had to write up, that the characters finally could meet a bunch of the nobles, some of the bishops, some of the just basically important NPCs. Some people liked it because you got to see all that and you couldn't see everybody. But then it's but if you're really invested with Veluna, at least that was some way of seeing that. And I remember having a huge Hexter. I think it was the Fist of Hextor. I think that prestige class or what have you.
Yeah.
And him in there, and it was a low-level adventure in that one. Because you could go, I usually try to throw in where you could choose which way to go, and it was one or the other. So at least it wasn't like a railroad. At least I tried, and that was one of them.
Yeah, that was a prestige class in one of those beige-colored books, right?
Yeah, the splat books.
Yeah,
we called them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had the bad thing about the thing that was crazy in the beginning of that, you had to reprint all that as well as the stat blocks, reprint everything that was new in the back of the book for people who didn't happen to have it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That way it didn't require you to have all the splat books. You just provided it all in the adventure.
That's crazy.
Right, because this campaign had hundreds or thousands of dungeon masters, and all they were required to own was the Dungeon Master's Guide or Player's Handbook or the Monster Manual, right? Anything that wasn't one of those 3 core books had to be reprinted in the adventure. And then we went from 3.0 to 3.5 in the middle of the campaign, and we all had to rebuy everything. So it was just a little bit of a hot mess. And the splat books, the 3.0 splat books, got removed from legality, and then we got the 3.5 splat books. So there was a lot going on there with third edition.
I actually had a travel chest that I took to large cons that had the bottom drawer, nothing but books.
Wow.
It was probably 3 feet worth of books in the bottom of the box.
I had to use an army rucksack. I was in the army for a couple of years before living Greyhawk, and one of my buddies from Bandit Kingdoms found some old video of us playtesting an interactive in 2004, and we're all standing outside on a smoke break because we're all young and dumb and idiots back then, smoking. And I've got this giant army rucksack, and I've got 12 third edition books. You just needed so much material once you reach to the triad level to write things.
This thing was a 3-drawer tool chest, and I used the top drawer for miniatures and other accoutrements, props. They called me a prop guy for a while, and so on and so forth.
No kidding. Jay here is known for his tabletop play in AD&D. He's got a ridiculous basement setup. What is it, 8 foot by 8 foot?
The table.
Terrain table?
Yeah. Table is. It's not bad. I got all the terrain set up for tomorrow, but I got to cancel, man. I can't, there's no way. Plus, I don't want I don't want my friends over here, right? Right, Casey? I don't want to get them all sick. So,
No.
I got a big question here. There's some there's orgs in here. I guess I'm assuming some of these became meta orgs, right? You got
They did, but like I said, since this is the very beginning, it was more of the role-playing ones, I'd say.
Oh, okay.
And I sent the College of, I think, Divine, I think it was, That's what they later turned in, where you could then, because the meta orgs took a huge shift when you could access the what we're talking about, the extra books, the splat books and everything. I think that was probably when 3.5 came out, would be my guess.
Okay.
And,
That sounds about
yeah. And so like these were like the role playing ones, and like where it's like, oh, you get benefits for visiting a town or whatever. And then when these splat book came out and you said, oh, you can only get them through adventures or adventure records and earn them. And then the meta orgs came out, and then everybody shifted the focus to like, oh, you can get these extra, you can be trained in how to do this prestige class and all this other stuff. So,
well, as far as role play goes, here's my question: these Knights of Whitedale, aren't they going to have like a conflict with the Knights of the Heart in Veluna right off the bat? Is there no rivalry there?
To a point, there's some friendly rivalry. I think
friendly, okay.
Theoretically working for the same towards good and towards, for the good of Veluna.
Lawful goods can hate each other too, right? Okay, I'm just curious on that because I saw these.
They did. I think it was like one of those where like they kind of went behind their backs and everything else, their own form of justice. However, I think, and Lynn and Dave can see if they can remember, I think a lot of some of these knights were killed in that huge battle I was talking about with the cannon.
Okay.
I think so. A lot of them were, not all, but a good chunk of them. They were severely weakened.
Mm-hmm.
Defenders of Veluna? Sounds cool.
Yeah. That one I remember. That one I definitely think became in the new Meta Org book.
Group of thieves from Kent attempted to make off with the Crook of Ral. Interesting.
Yeah.
They failed to do.
More than once.
More than once.
That's
and we should definitely do a deep dive into the meta orgs at a future show.
Yeah,
that's often what we do here on Legends and Lores. This is our first big overview show, getting to meet you guys and learn about Veluna. At the next show, we'll do a real deep dive, if you join us, if you're having a good time, into the plots and the meta orgs and the really
meta
meaty
orgs
crunch.
Was huge.
Yeah, we'd love to see that and go over that with you guys.
Unfortunately, our Mr. Triad member, Brian Gilkitson, was in charge of the meta orgs, and he would know more in depth about it. I'll try to convince him to join us next time.
Yeah, reach out to him.
Or need some time to study up ahead of time, too.
It all comes back.
Let's see what I got here.
Yeah.
Here's a campaign.
But yeah, Tim was kind enough to. Now, this is actual campaign rules.
Yeah.
Not specific to Veluna. This is how to write adventures, what you can and can't use in adventures, like no drow, no 2 dragons without permission. I'm just going to say screw that. We didn't obey that rule in the Bandit Kingdoms. Year 6 was Year of the Dragon, according to the RPGA. We had like dragons in every adventure. We didn't bother asking for permission.
Well, this is also 2007. It said this book here.
It got revised every year.
Okay.
Oh yeah. We
As new books came out and things like that.
I think I was doing the meta org stuff for the Circle, if I remember right. Of having to update that.
This might be the player's source book Jace looking through.
I think it is. I think,
okay.
The how to make a character and all that.
Yeah, that
I was
is.
just okay.
I will say this for our meta orgs. The big thing is a lot of our, and I think other regions did this too from what I saw, but like ours, we threw in, there was a big one I sent of an AR of like where it had the robes for both the College of Divine and Arcane. And I know Lynn and David talked, and they were pretty powerful, but you had to be in one of our meta orgs to even wear them, and it would only level up as you leveled up in the meta org. And
Oh, cool.
And we did that with a bunch of stuff, but that was those, I will admit, because a few of my friends and people I knew, it was ridiculously powerful. But I mean, like to the point where I was given sacred bonuses to AC and the free spells and access to stuff, but you had to spend like almost half your time units. So.
And for the audience, time units were what limited you from playing your character in every single adventure you ran across as you traveled around playing Living Greyhawk. Each character, not player, each character had 52 time units a year, but they weren't weeks according to the higher ups. It's just the way it worked out, right? And regional adventures would cost your character 1 time unit. A core adventure would cost you 2 time units, if I remember correctly. Out of regional adventures, if you guys had traveled to the Bandit Kingdoms or I had traveled to Veluna, my character would have been charged 2 time units, and so on and so on. So this is what limited you from going from first level to 20th level in 12 calendar months.
18, but yeah, who's counting?
They were play opportunities. So you would trade play opportunities for participation in the meta org, because the meta org would give you cool stuff or would give you role-playing incentives for your character.
Yeah. And we always thought maybe throwing in stuff where you could get, like you talked about, Verbank did the town thing. We did something similar like that, I believe, as well. Because it's always good. Most of the people I met gamer, they wanted something that they could call their own. So we started to do, I believe.
Yeah, we
My
did.
son-
Wizards could get towers, build towers, and I think at one point we even had an interactive where
That's right.
you were talking about we had a big landholder get killed or whatever, and so we like basically kind of auctioned off a lot of his land to people because, like Tim was saying, they wanted, they gives them something else. Some part lets them feel part of it, that they own a part of Veluna literally, but
That was something 3.5 didn't do very well. Building and land ownership rules. Unlike earlier editions of the game where you hit 9th level, you were expected to start building a tower.
Yeah, they definitely didn't have that in the hard rules, so to speak.
Yeah, I forgot about the tower. I forgot that they could build all this stuff. I thought you guys had done that towards the end and everything, just based off of that. And again, it took time units, but I think you could even hire people. I think we went all on that system as well.
Yeah, function of time units and money and donations to the church and stuff like that, and had to be a certain level, I think, to in the meta org to get access to it. And then we had a few people, not a ton of people. We had a few people draw up their own tower and everything, and they got a certificate for it and everything. So,
Stella, quit eating the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer.
Oh my gosh, that's not good. Wow.
stuff.
But I was looking through the stuff, and Dave and Len can talk about, but I know you guys used a devil that came from the Flight of Fiends coming back, the Marduk. I remember you guys, that was towards the end, as well as like, what was that?
Gosrag.
I remember Marduk. We had Gosrag, but that was I don't remember the name. I'd have to look at my old stuff and see about Marduk. I don't remember that.
Yeah, there was one where Marduk was like 1,000 years, and he came in and like was corrupting some of like the shadows, because we did a lot of stuff with you guys did a lot of stuff with the Fae. I keep saying we, but you guys really. The Fae for a brief moment. I remember with that.
We had a series of stuff with the Fae. I think most of the Fae was in I want to say Verbank though.
Joff did a ton.
Yeah, Joff did the main one.
Maybe.
Yeah, because I think Eric Mengi helped out with a few of the things. And then later on, from what I remember you guys writing about is like a bunch of stuff with the one of the Iron Rings Consortium was the one that was the evil one, if you remember all that. Yeah, the High Roads Trading Company. I remember looking at that, where you kind of started getting more into the meta orgs, I think, as far as the adventures from like about year 6 on, I want to say.
I think mostly, if I remember, I'm remembering differently or whatever. I think Iron Rings was like a front for some of the Harrian stuff.
Yeah.
So that was more early stuff.
Was that a meta org players could join that later got revealed to be villainous or anything?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
What is that?
I don't think
I have an adventure of the Cursed Rings here. Is that something? Oh, it says it's protected. Please enter a document open password. So I can't open it.
I think I sent you the password. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
No, I sent. Yeah, let me look at it. See if I can find it.
I probably got it written down somewhere, but
I got it here on screen.
But that one, that was one of the best ones. But yeah, the Iron Rings might have been that, but I think it still was like going on after.
A Cursed.
But that would have been a cool idea, is if they could have joined the Iron Rings and then that happened to it.
Yeah.
I think Casey forwarded them to me, and I didn't see that, so.
Of course, it's not working.
It's okay.
Yeah, it might be buried in the email that I forwarded. But
it's in the email. Yeah.
Is it? Oh, I can't open.
Yeah,
it
just
now.
open that up.
I can't.
Tell us about the interactives in Veluna.
Oh, it's a broad statement.
Well, start early and go chronologically.
Well, I'll let Tim start them off. If the earliest stuff. I mean, my recollection is just trying to get things that were trying to take advantage of being able to do different things and not have the same ABC plot line or whatever, and try to find ways to get multiple people, more than the 4, 5, or 6 people, to be able to work together or interact. Obviously, it's called interactive. Get away from just I'm at my little table with my small group, and try to find ways to make that work and make something interesting and do stuff like that. Like I said, we had the one with that ended up with an auction for buying land. We had.
Didn't we have a zoo one?
I'm sorry?
Didn't we have a zoo one?
Or maybe. I know we had one. We had like Tim was saying before, the Siege of Mitrick. We had a couple of big war ones during the war where they could, they got mixed and matched and sent out to different missions on the war. And then after the end of the war, and we were into that, like I was saying, what's really happening with the church? Is it all good? Is it all bad or whatever? We had one that everybody got sent out on almost police missions. They had like a list of things to check out and arrest people or whatever. And some of those things were mistaken identities. Some things were very evil things and needed to get squashed. So it was all randomized. What else did we have?
Well, how did you guys do conventions in Ohio? Like how many people? And was it the Triad running the conventions, or was it some third party? Was it David? And that's why he became the RPGA con guy.
Yeah. So in the beginning, from what I remember when I first started playing, Dave ran quite a few of them. I remember that because he ran like one called CampCon, which I didn't go to, but much of my friends went to. It was just at a camp. But then the big one was Mahoning Valley MVC. That was the big one that we always had up near Youngstown that Dave ran along with a few other people. And I remember that one where they had like, they had I think Dave's probably maybe said, there was a 3-round adventure before they got rid of 3-round adventures.
Oh, wow.
There was in year 1, there was a 3-rounder. And that one, I remember in the cert table where you had a bunch of certs laying out that you could buy because you had to ask for that. If people remember all that. So basically a marketplace where you could spend your money, because before that, all you could do is get stuff from the actual adventures. And that one, I want to say, it was decently sized. I want to say it was like maybe 50 to 100 people, probably in the beginning. And then I remember maybe a year or 2 later, then it became a couple hundred. Like it just grew because Living Greyhawk grew. And again, because our region's surrounded by everybody, it became a couple hundred. And then Lynn, Jeff Richards, I think, ran a couple down here in Dayton. And Lynn, I can't, there's probably other people that I'm not remembering. But Dayton we had a couple hundred down here towards the middle. And a lot of small.
Victor ran Weekend in Veluna here in Columbus, and I took that over.
See, I've heard of Weekend in Veluna.
I forgot about it in Columbus, at Ohio State.
That was different from Ohio State. Ohio State there was a presence at what was that called? There was Ohio State itself had a just general gaming convention that LG ended up having a presence at.
Cool.
Than that.
The universities were hotbeds for play and activity because you had a whole bunch of college kids with too much time on their hands, not going to class or whatever, like a lot of us were. And we had major colleges have sci-fi and fantasy gaming groups. Like Texas A&M has something called Cepheid Variable, I think is the name of it. And they would have a con twice a year, Aggie Con and ProtoCon. And Living Greyhawk was probably like 80% of the events that went on.
Wow.
At those cons during the height of Living Greyhawk.
Yeah, I remember. So I remember one of the year 2 adventure I wrote was in Columbus, and I thought it was at Ohio State. It might not have been Weekend in Veluna, obviously. They remember, but it got, that one seemed like it got a decent amount, but it didn't get as much as the one in Youngstown. But there wasn't much in Southeast Ohio from what I remember, or Cincinnati started to get bigger towards the end, if I remember right. They started to have conventions and everything, but there used to be at least a couple hundred for the main ones where we unveiled. And then Origins obviously was a big one that we happen to have here. I don't think like you couldn't have Veluna stuff, but I think some people tried to run some on the side, obviously.
Right.
The Wednesday
I was
before
wondering
the,
about
sorry, the
Sorry, go
Wednesday
ahead, Lynn.
before the Veluna Day. At Origins, they ran modules on Wednesday, the day before the con.
Okay.
Oh, cool. And there were probably Midnight Madness slots,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for people who were just absolutely insane and wanted to play from midnight to 4 a.m. because they had traveled and spent all this money, you know. And I think something we talk about on these shows, Living Greyhawk, I think created or took the con system that existed for Living City and the RPGA, because I remember going to RPGA cons in the 90s as a high school kid, and there was no Living City at that time that I can recall, or before the 90s, in the late 80s, whatever, Houston. Living Greyhawk gave cons a reason to exist because you would get hundreds of players and many of them traveling from out of state. So they would boost the local economy, right? They'd take over a hotel and you would have tons of hotel rooms and the convention rooms. And we haven't seen that since 3rd edition died. 4th edition came nowhere near that. And 5th edition doesn't, and neither does Pathfinder Society.
Yeah, 5th edition, I would say. The big cons were fine. Obviously, COVID had something to do with that, but 5th edition seemed like it was trying to bring it back, at least for the big cons like Winter Fantasy. That was another one. So that was another reason we had so many, because Winter Fantasy, Gen Con, and Origins all within like 2 hours of us.
Wow. And then Dragon Con in Atlanta. Those were like the big four, right?
Yeah. And then Winter Fantasy moved to Washington. I remember that briefly.
Wow.
Washington, D.C.
Oh.
I believe that. I think it was Winter Fantasy, or maybe it was one of the other ones.
Right. And the big cons are always going to be the big cons. You go to Gen Con now, in what is it, 80% D&D Adventurers League playing 5th edition or whatever with some other tabletop and some homebrew or whatever people have signed up to run. PaizoCon is running, Pathfinder 1E and 2E. But we would have conventions in the middle of nowhere, Texas, because Conrad, who works with David Chris now on con stuff, he found a cheap city for a hotel that had cheap space and cheap travel to get to. And we would just have a con. And same thing, the Yeomanry guys would throw a con in Shreveport.
Yeah.
Shreveport's kind of a shithole, but it was good for cheap cons.
Yeah. Did you also have on the state borders so people can come, you can cross play from bordering, like neighboring?
Exactly, Anna.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Cincinnati would have been great for cons. I was born in Cincinnati. You would get the Yeomanry people from Louisville and further afield, and Indiana, right? You'd get the Verbabonk people to come from Indianapolis. So I'm a little surprised to hear Cincinnati wasn't a hotbed for you guys.
It got better as the years went on. I think it got a slow start or something. I couldn't tell you why. But like you said, towards the end, there was actually, I think, a couple cons a year down in Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's what I don't like. Dave's right. I don't remember much in Cincinnati because in the first couple of years, and then I don't know, like, because a lot of us were around Dayton. So I don't know if that had something to do with it. We just were throwing them in Dayton. I don't know, which isn't that far. It's like about 40 minutes away from Cincinnati. So
could be.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Dayton, and I was in Cincinnati as a kid, so I know it couldn't have been too far.
Yeah. I'm trying to find something. I do know you were asking interactives. I remember Dave brought up, I remember the one in MVC where you could meet. That one, they auctioned up and you kind of met Big B, but we couldn't say it was Big B. I think I might have just become a Triad member because at the time you weren't allowed to use any of the main, Circle of Six or Circle of Eight and all that. And he showed up, but he was kind of incognito, if I remember right. And you got a cert saying you met such and such. We just said it wasn't because we still couldn't say it. And I remember that one is you just kind of the beginning of it. And the Siege was our biggest one, where I think everybody loved that one, the Siege one, because I remember, like, I don't know who made the stat blocks, but there were some really powerful enemies for that one. And I don't know if Lynn remembers much of that.
I remember being a part of a really big battle. I had like 12 people at my table running Gosford.
Nice.
That was
So for the audience, interactives were a one-shot, essentially, Living Greyhawk adventure that was played simultaneously by basically everyone in the room. You would have multiple tables. You'd have APL2 up to APL16, depending on the event, doing different, what we would now call side missions, quests, mini adventures, all related to one overarching plot. And the results of interactives for most regions would then help drive the story forward for their future adventures. The results of that, like you killed the major bad guy during interactives, or the major bad guy got away. That then got incorporated into the future stories of that region. We did some where we did one round at a time. We would just like, all right, judges, round one. And then you had 10 minutes, round two. And that way PCs could go from table 3, maybe they were 4th level, over to table 4, where the 6th level guys were, and they could try and help them out, or vice versa.
A round
we
in
allowed
10 minutes? There's no way Tim would do that. I'm just busting the stones.
I don't recall the exact time frame we used for it, because at high levels, you get so bogged down in 3rd edition with all the magic that's going on and the monster abilities. The action economy got really bonkers. But the interactives were great fun, and they were a huge draw for the cons. They were usually the Saturday night main event.
Yep, that's what I remember. The one thing I remember, Lynn and Dave, I remember, is the wasting disease. Do you guys remember that?
yes.
I read about that. Can please elaborate on that one? Yeah.
I
Let me bring it up.
couldn't remember the details right now, but it was if
I can
you
bring it
did
up.
certain things in certain things, certain actions you took in certain adventures, you had a chance, you could contract this. And I forget what I forget much more than that.
See if
Maybe
I can find
Tim-
some details.
Tim or
I've-
Lynn can remember
I've got the
details.
AR, but I don't remember how you guys did it. That's what I was asking, if you guys remembered how you did it later on. But it went all the way back from, I'm just reading the AR, but from the War of the Rings adventure back in year 4. And it was basically, Ayuz was kind of the reason why a lot of the stuff failed in the Flight of Fiends, but it basically convinced several bishops to betray it, and basically exposed those to a corruption that was inspired by Ayuz. 6 clerics were immediately infected and became ill. And it's basically nothing could basically cure it. And they basically, the other 5, one died and the other 5 were kind of sequestered away and hidden by the church to say, oh, everything's fine. I do remember that part of it. And because it didn't spread to anybody else, at least back when that happened. But then it became contagious, I think, once the canon and everything came to power. And we consider it a gift from Ayuz, basically. And it also was also in the Greater Good core series, is contain it. We did that. They did that with that. And so basically the essence is assumed to have been reunited with the physical crook, and then which was lost to Harion and possibly taken by the Pitfiend Ghost Rag that Lynn's been talking about. You could get this thing, but it was an epic level divine curse. So basically, even if you're a paladin, you could get it, and even a monk could get it, even a high level. And so basically, you had to write down the damage, but it was kind of ridiculous what we made it. I don't even remember why we made it this high, but the fortitude save was DC 15 plus the APL you played at when exposed, plus modifiers, and at your damage you took a con, strength, and dex damage, basically 1 each. And then it basically, if you were a divine caster, wow, chaotic, all that kind of stuff, it just went up. And I don't remember how you had to contact the POC. I know that's what it says. So
Yeah.
it was super high.
The adventure records, and Jay might be able to throw up one of the ones again.
Yeah.
That Tim had sent, but sometimes there'd be things on there saying like, if you get this, you must contact the Triad. The campaign was very unpoliced, right? You know, we have no idea who was downloading the adventures and playing them unless we were running the adventure at a comic book store or game store or at the convention and we're at the table and the guy does the thing he's not supposed to do. The judge would circle instead of Holy Robe of Veluna. Just imagine that says like kissed by IUs, right? The judge would circle that to make sure that future judges would see it if that character was reviewed and audited. It was all honor system, right? We weren't supposed to play adventures out of region. We had to discipline people in the Bandit Kingdoms for playing out of region adventures here in Texas. Like we just knew they were cheating. We had to kick them out of the RPGA for that. It was serious business to maintain the integrity of the campaign.
Look at the cost of these upgrades. Holy jeez.
Yeah, these are the ones I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
These are the ones I think I made these, but yeah, because I liked, one of the things I liked doing was taking like creating magic items, and these are the ones I made that were tied to the meta orgs, and it took up the whole thing. I'm surprised. And again, sorry, this is like we didn't in the beginning, like when the 2 adventures I wrote in year 2, obviously I had to go to Steven and the WotC basically to get approved, and all that stuff
right.
happened. So there were boots that help it with electricity resistance, I think. And the other one where I took a lot of my items were the old, I think 1st or 2nd edition, the Greyhawk Adventures, that book. And it had a bunch of magic items for a bunch of different regions in Greyhawk. So I would update them to 3rd edition. So like
cool.
one was the cap of Veluna, or a cap of healing that cured serious wounds 3 times a day. That actually got approved and sent through. That was on one of them. But this probably never would have gotten approved. I can tell you that when you look at it.
There's a healing cap of Veluna in the original Greyhawk Adventures that does max healing. That was
that's the one. That's what I updated for in year 2. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. The Greyhawk Adventures has the Iron Crown of the Bandit Kingdoms. That's some cool stuff in there. Jay has had the author Jim Ward on multiple times to talk about how that Greyhawk Adventures book came to be. So it's really neat when he gets those old timers on.
Yeah, except the only problem with that is that Jim doesn't know who did what in that book. They did it in 3 months. Just don't know, unfortunately.
Just to show the audience again. So like in early years, this is a later cert, but this is what Tim's referring to. Year 1 and 2 adventures. If you found a masterwork sword, it was literally a piece of paper that the guy who ran the adventure had to print up and cut out. And there would be one of these. And the players would have to like fight, argue, or trade. One guy could get the masterwork sword. One guy could get the wand of magic missile, whatever it was. This was a leftover from the Living City accounting method, if I understand correctly.
Wow.
And then at some point, SRM said, this is ridiculous. We're going to go to these adventure record things. And as you can see, if Jay were to throw that up, it has treasure you can buy. So during the adventure, you find stuff, but you don't get to keep it. You have to buy it. So that was just how they handled the accounting.
Yeah, it's like an abstract thing. If you could say that at
Scroll
the
down, Jay.
end of the adventure, you had found so much value and treasure, and whether you wanted to manifest that as gold or this particular item that your character wanted to have. That's how I always looked at it. I tried to not look at it as, oh, I got a bunch of gold, I'm going to go buy this now. It was kind of abstracted it a little bit, but it gave it the opportunity for everybody to, if everybody liked the, like you're saying, the Master Sword example, because that was something I never liked about the LC thing with, like what you were just saying, there was one magic sword and everybody'd fight over it, and you'd have, people arguing, people, there was times where you'd have 3 or 4 people in a group that would all say, well, let's vote, and they'll all vote the same way so that their friend would get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was year 2. At the end of year 2, I think Because I think, wasn't it year one lasted a year and a half, or was that year two? I can't
Well, there was
remember.
a year zero,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In 2000, when they launched at Gen Con, was year zero, but the mods were year one mods, and they just got played in 2001 and 2002.
Yeah, and so that's because the certs, like Dave said, that was the problem with the certs. I mean, it was cool because you could, if there was a special cert or item, you were the only person that had it, and you could show it off and everything. But the problem was people would just fight like crazy over it, and that's why they decided to get rid of it and go to that. Because there was a point in time in year two where you could buy anything in the DMG. I remember that. And like if you had the money, there was like a free for all basically. And you could buy, they allowed you to do that to get up there. And then once, I think either beginning year two or year three, then it became like, okay, now you can't do that and you got to get access from the AR.
Right. It was a big problem because the potions of shield shouldn't have existed, but people were buying them. And in the Bandit Kingdoms, the most notorious thing that got planned and bought was a guy bought a potion of love, and his plan was to capture a female drow and shove it down her throat and to forcibly make an NPC drow fall in love with him. And this was a big deal to this player for whatever reason. I don't know quite why he was obsessed with this. Maybe he just wanted to show the lunacy of the campaign. But at some point, eventually, they said these items are no longer allowed in the campaign. And I think we nerfed or took away the potion of love because of the non-consensual aspect of it.
I had the potion of shields. I remember for my monk, I had that for the elemental evil.
What was wrong?
And then they were like, "Wait, you can't do a potion of a spell that's target self, right?" That was the problem.
Yeah, there was certain restrictions in third edition.
That's third edition rules deep dive there, right there. So
wow.
Yep.
And Tim's like, well, capturing drow is so easy. Tim and living Greyhawk drow were pretty rare, but eventually they would show up, and all you had to do was eat one in battle, and you had a drow.
We never saw drow.
No,
we never saw drow in Veluna. We were too goody good two shoes for that.
I got to ask a couple questions here, even though I'm struggling here. So give me a sec. I want to so you're not far from. I guess you are. I was gonna say, running up here, you got the areas of Farisden and Showcant. They're not that far, and then in the south you still have some of the remnants of the Lort Mills. But I know it's in the largest. I know it says like a lot of the humanoids were knocked out. Was there any issues in those areas, or no? It was just like
for Therisden. Yeah, I think we used Therisden, if I remember right. Then we landed Dave.
I wrote a 2-round module called the Harbinger of Shadows, where I had a Therisden Ziggurat.
Awesome. Because Showcant's right here. I mean, Showcant is literally right up from High Folk, right? So all right, cool.
Well, Temple of Elemental Evil is just southeast too.
Yeah, but
So,
oh gosh,
right near. It's not in Veluna, but it's close.
Yeah, it's Verbabonk.
Yeah, and that's
the Verbabonk guys weren't able to do anything with it.
No, technically, I think when I was before this, I was reading some stuff. I think there was an adventure that you guys wrote or whatever, or something like that, where we used off of the moat house and the town. I don't know how we pulled that one off. But, I remember it said that when I was reading it, it mentioned the moat house and the Hamlet, that's what it was, and doing all that. But Sojcant, I remember helping write the special for Sojcant, and then we threw some stuff in there. But I don't think Veluna. I don't think you guys really grabbed much from there, if I recall.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but Therisden, I do remember, Lynn, your adventure, and I think there was remnants of that quite a bit. If I remember right when you.
What was going on with Dresden? Because I think a lot of regions there was no coordination. We used Dresden in the BK. We had a cult. They were doing weird shit. What'd you guys do with it?
I don't remember.
They woke up and asked that.
We might. I mean, I don't remember for sure, but I think we had. I think he showed up. Not he showed up. It's aspects of him showed up with the Sindel and just little things here and there.
Okay.
I got it right here. I can.
Big chaos thing. So. Yeah.
Right. So you guys would need something to fight that, that would make sense. And chaotic evil would make a hell of a lot of sense for you guys.
Oh, yeah. I
Did you guys have any dragons in the region as NPCs? Friendly, good dragons?
I don't think so.
No.
Why not?
Because, again, it was a region where we didn't really have any of that. I mean, they could have probably made one, but
Yeah.
I don't think, other than, I take that back. If I remember right, in the interactive, we did have an undead dragon, if I remember right.
Okay,
It
so
was
you,
a shadow dragon, harbinger of shadows.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
Yeah,
but I'm a little surprised you guys didn't throw in a gold or silver dragon, like
There might have
guiding
been
one
a
of the
silver.
clergies or something.
There might have been a silver, now that I think about it. There could have been a silver dragon helping and whatnot. But definitely, I know there definitely was one for the siege and everything when they came in. But yeah, I just remember that would have been the only time. And like he said, the shadow dragon, I think, is what he used. I'm looking through.
I think I remember Dave doing a big interactive. I don't know if it was at NBC or it might have even been out over at Fort Wayne, at whatever con was up there.
Winter Fantasy.
But I remember him doing one insane interactive where it was like the year that WotC came out with the giant red dragon quote miniature.
Jay's got one of those.
Yeah, I've got one up here on the
Oh,
shelf.
the gargantuan.
but-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the size of a turkey.
Unopened. Yeah.
He set up an interactive with where everybody fought that, and it was like 50 people at the table.
Oh, that's cool.
I couldn't tell you much details and I don't remember how well it worked, but
Yeah, it's a lot to
50,
keep track
50
of.
NPCs,
So-
that many and charging at it.
So
That's
Lynn,
awesome.
Your adventure you go to Harrian's shadow plane with to do something Therizin and fight the dragon. Yeah, so there was a shadow dragon, like you said.
Oh, cool.
Gosrag here, Lynn said, ask about the reaping.
okay.
Okay.
Kazrag's the handle from my son.
Yep, exactly. So what about the reaping?
Well, there always were stories about me being an impartial judge, and Alex, my son, who now goes by Gosrag as a chat handle, had the misfortune of meeting one of the creatures in the reaping and getting killed by a crit from a scythe, a berserker, barbarian, half vampire, blah blah blah. And at one time he was a frenzied berserker, and during the playtest for this encounter, we were in the middle of the playtest and got a phone call. Oh, remember that frenzied berserker you put in your module? You can't use it. You can't use it. And I was like, right at that was the moment when it was actually happening during the playtest. And I went to the character that had run into it, and it says, the character you're looking at, he gets mad. And then he gets mad again. And he goes, what does that mean? I don't understand. And then I got the phone call saying I couldn't use him. Anyway, my son dies from a blow and has a cert for reincarnation. Tim and I had a small conversation about this a couple of years ago about, I didn't give you permission for reincarnate, but he had a little cert that said he could get a free reincarnate. And since I was a POC, I went ahead and I told him, realize that if you fail to get a playable race, you're out of play. And he says, yes, I understand.
Get a raccoon.
Human to half orc and got killed. Unfortunately, the critical results for the reaping, the players failed to succeed in destroying Canon Harrion. So those characters still existed, and they showed up in the finale of the campaign and had a conversation about one guy hitting a human so hard he woke up. So I canonized my son's death in the reaping.
Nice.
That's cool.
So in third edition, a scythe was a ×4 crit weapon, You're probably power attacking with it because you're using it two-handed.
I did 115 points of damage without rolling dice.
How many?
114 points of damage without rolling dice.
And then you said Frenzied Berserker. That was a 3.0 splat book class from Masters of the Wild, if I remember correctly. That's how much of this shit I had to read just to write adventures that I can remember that. And yeah, I remember they went from these books are legal to these books are no longer legal because the 3.0 classes, there were just some serious problems with those. And the Frenzied Berserker, right, he got mad and then he got mad again. It's like if the Hulk got even angrier and turned into, I think there's a Grey Hulk or whatever, the Super Hulk.
The interesting ability of him was he could take as much damage as long as his rage lasted. So he could take 1,000 points of damage and not
He couldn't die. Yeah, it was just ludicrous.
Wow.
Some of the game design choices in 3.0 and even in the core rules that Skip and those guys did. The
stacking of all the bonuses was insane.
Yeah.
And you know, we can talk about edition stuff later, but like, you know, for younger players in 5th edition, you're like, holy crap, I'm armor class 22. In 3rd edition, you like ate breakfast at armor class 22. You know, I was walking around at armor class like 48 and 52. And you know, by the time I was APL 16.
Probably were displaced and all that other stuff too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was just sick. And that's why high-level adventures. Okay, so real quick. Adventures were supposed to have 3 encounters. And they didn't all have to be combats, but they weren't all going to be traps or social. But typically, you'd had 3 fights. By the time you were writing a 16th level adventure in 3rd edition, your bad guy is like an 18th or 19th level wizard or cleric. So he's doing spells, quicken spells. He's got an army of undead or whatever. Dragons are doing. The action economy is just bonkers. A fight, 1 round could take an hour. Like the first round of an APL 16 fight could take 1 hour because the players are sitting there trying to figure out what they're going to do. And you as the judge are running a bunch of monsters and minions that you're not super familiar with, even though you've read them and looked them up. Then each round would get slightly faster as bad guys died. But we only typically had 4 hours at conventions per slot to run an adventure. So, but combats might last 2 rounds. I was watching a Gen Con special, the APL 16 guys from the Bandit Kingdoms in 2004, the only year I went. It was the Keys, Zagging's Keys special. Anyway, we were trying to predict, and this is caught on film, like how long is this fight going to last? And they were like 3 rounds. It lasted 1 round and 1 person. It was just bonkers what the high-level characters could do.
Yeah.
But it took them an hour to do that 1 round.
That was part of the issue, at least, is writing adventures, and they can attest to that towards the end, especially. But especially with specials and interactives, it wasn't easy because to do a challenge, because some interactives you could overwhelm people that didn't min max, and unfortunately, quite a few people did do that. So you'd have to cater to them a little bit too much, in my opinion. But
yeah, I mean that is the way the campaign went because you had people. Jason Bullman publicly denounced Pink Ninjas, right?
Yeah,
and he was very proud of killing PCs at the big special events, as were other circle members. He is one of the ones who publicly denounced Pink Ninja builds. And Pink Ninja builds, for the audience, are when you multi-class with very role-play-y purpose, like maybe you don't do it to min-max your character. That's called a Pink Ninja. You're good at a bunch of things. You're not great at anything. And so, yeah, there was a arms race, which is unfortunate, but that's just what happened. I think that happens probably in every living campaign since then.
Seems organized play emphasized that because everybody has to play by the same rules. The rules gets important, and that seems to foster and min-max Pathfinder
Well,
organized play, the same
well,
thing. You
first
build
edition
as
too.
builds are the essential thing, so to speak. And everybody, when you play with a new group in Pathfinder organized play, was something. Oh, what build and are using and people gave me because I was so bad at min maxing, and everybody gave. Oh, you need to do this, and then you need to take that, and then you get another bonus, and that was a big part of the game. And I can just totally understand why. And it's a cool thing to emphasize. It's not what I like to emphasize, but I can understand it's part of organized play that becomes an important bit, I think, in that
That's
style of
something
game.
something that Jeff Richards had said at one point applies to this, that because it's a living campaign and because it's keyed, there's a lot of focus on the convention stuff that people come to play at conventions. Jeff always, we get the super min max players, people that are aggressively like that, or just aren't the nicest to their other players or whatever. But with the min max specifically, those might be people that don't have a home game. They don't have a group that they consistently play with because they're min maxers, because they're that way, and because they don't play well with others necessarily. But they can go to the conventions, and people have to let them play.
Mhm.
So you get more of a concentration of that sort of person, that sort of player
Yep.
at the
Very good
convention.
point.
And it snowballs, and then people want to, I can be like that, or I need to keep up with that. And that's what starts to, and that's, perpetuates.
Yeah, and I
the
don't think it's a wrong way to play. It's just
No,
something that is not
Right.
for everybody's flavor of play,
Correct.
so
Yeah,
to speak.
I
And you
didn't
need
mean-
to,
Yeah,
They did
and
it
that does.
online.
That's a bad thing, but that's draws that.
yeah, it's
type
one style of
person.
play that I think is perfectly
Mhm.
valid in its own way, so to speak. But it's
Yeah.
just like if you super role play whatever and rules light, you need to kind of advertise that, and so it's
Right.
but it's also organized play. I must say, to the defense of that, organized play is a wonderful way of learning the rules thoroughly, so to
Mhm.
speak. You
Yeah.
do that really well. In when I played Pathfinder organized play, I really learned the Pathfinder rule set because you get a lot of really well written encounters and stuff that are very technical. They make use of all the obscure, cool, interesting rules and limitations and ways to use the very creatively use the rule set, and that is a really interesting way. So that was my main reason to play an organized play, was to get interesting new cool ways of tweaking the rules, not to get so much role play and campaign depth and stuff like that, but to get cool encounters that were that really got me to think about all the possibilities of the game, so to speak.
Cool.
Yeah, and David, to agree with you, there could be I'm trying to think of the right terms. In Living Greyhawk, you might have a group of players who like to play with each other.
Mhm.
And they would essentially be their own little adventuring party, but sometimes one of them would go off and play with other people. But when they played with each other in their home games or comic book stores, they would role play with each other. Their characters knew each other for years. They, as players, knew each other and trusted each other for years. But Jim Bob might go off and play with strangers at a con who he doesn't know and doesn't trust, and he feels silly role playing or doing funny voices or whatever. And or those strangers might just be like, hey, we're here to kill stuff, and kick ass and take names, right? So are you on board or not? It can be very difficult to role play with strangers at conventions. And Living Greyhawk had to have the 3 encounters done in 4 hours. If you sat there and bullshitted for an hour and a half, the opening intro scene in the tavern, just making fart jokes like Jay's guys like to do sometimes for an hour and a half. Just kidding, guys.
No,
Which
you're not,
happened.
which is
I saw
fine.
Tim in the audience, so I'm just poking the bear.
Which happened a lot though, as far as like role play, and that's why some people also didn't necessarily like it, because it's like they wanted to do that role playing, and so you could when you could play them at home. I think a lot of people did that because
Right.
some of the ventures
Yeah.
eventually you could play just at home and
Right.
go at your own speed if
Exactly.
you wanted to. And that was the thing as a DM and like just writing adventures. I think it got better. Towards the last couple of years, as far as like writing like encounters that didn't have to do with because I think we lessened the rules or gave XP for not fighting. I think because they changed that, if I remember right. And
25% could come from role playing.
yeah, which helped
Yeah.
a lot. It needed that. I will say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good point with the way that with the time limit at conventions for having to get everything in a certain time was also detrimental to someone who wanted to role play more. I mean, because they had to get it in, especially at higher levels, you know.
Yeah.
With those
You
fights.
definitely feel
Yeah,
some
the fight
time
yeah.
management.
There's just no way to get it
combat.
all.
The combat.
And at the end, judge had to sign all the paperwork that we've shown, the adventure records. He had to circle everything. He had to write in the golden experience points. Yes, exactly. That's cert right there. For up to six players. And that you had to set aside 15 minutes for that. People were trying to get to their next slot. They were trying to go get food or whatever at cons. So
Because usually they didn't have luckily towards the end they gave breaks, but sometimes they didn't even give a break.
right.
Like between the slots and whatnot. And I remember it used to be 7-player tables in the very beginning.
Oh wow.
What was the biggest?
Oh, yeah.
Third edition.
What was the biggest interactive you ever had? How many people?
At least over 150, I would say, probably.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, well, I think some of the big ones at Origins would have been a couple hundred.
Couple
Yeah.
hundred.
Yeah.
I mean, you
'cause I
guys
think
must have
the
kicked
siege
our
was
butt.
a big one.
Our average would be like 90 in the BK, and I think our big ones would be like 120 to 150.
Yeah.
So I know you guys would have blown that out of the water with your better population, like more densely populated
Yeah,
state.
we might have had that. I may be undercutting. I don't know, but I know towards the end, because if I recall, interactives you could only have them in certain conventions in the very beginning. Like we didn't allow them everywhere. If I'm pretty sure about that. And then the last couple of years, then even little small ones could run their conventions, and we loosened up. Like I think there were some that I probably never even saw ARs for, if I remember.
So
right.
there was
I
a
could be wrong
generic
about that.
AR.
Yeah.
There were conventions that got access ARs, and I think you could do 4 of those a year in each region. But then any con could have events that were non-access ARs, and we had a generic AR for that where it just gave XP and treasure and no item access, none of the items, classes, whatever. And we did a BK con at a golf course one winter because that's where Conrad found a cheap meeting space, and they set a tent up outside in their parking lot, and they put up space heaters. And we had a whole bunch of people playing Living Greyhawk at a golf course while it was freezing. People were still on the driving range 30 yards away from us, playing golf that day. It was one of the weirdest places I've ever played Dungeons and Dragons.
I remember we had one at where a wedding wasn't going on, I don't think, but basically it was like a place, like an old 1900s house. I don't know if Lynn was there for that one down in.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's just like there weren't very many people, mind you, but it was one of the first times there, and but most of them were in hotels, if I recall, around the area.
I would really love to do a Living Greyhawk 15-year. I call it 15 years because the campaign ended in 2008, and next year will be the 15th year from that. I've been talking a little bit how do I get David on board with David Christ? Is it Christ or Christ? I always get it wrong.
It's Chris. As far as
how do I get David Christ and Conrad on board with this? Let's throw a Living Greyhawk convention in Las Vegas, right? Cheap hotel rooms, cheap flights.
Yes.
And we'll do an interactive Saturday night that is in the free city of Greyhawk, because there was never any interactive ever set in the free city of Greyhawk because it was a core region, right? I don't recall any core specials being set in the free city as an interactive, but I also didn't go to a lot of the bigger cons.
Why
not as interactive? I don't remember.
David Christ is too busy with Adventures League. I mean,
no, but he can give me the guidance. This is how you do that. This is how you plan for that. And Conrad, who assists David, used to do the Bandit Kingdom cons. And part of my brain is this would be an amazing idea, and we would get a ton of people there. And then my wife is you're not going to get anyone there. Everyone wants to play 5e these days.
That's not true.
Yeah, because I remember
if you look at the percentages,
they came out with the intro adventures where he brought back Brendigan towards the end. I remember that. Those ones that they actually gave to stores.
Did they?
Yeah, I think you could buy them. They actually sent them to stores. There was 3 of them that I think I wrote. Like Brendan, to bring back the Brendan guy from the very first year.
Wait, did you write Brendan?
Not the original ones. I wrote the
Oh.
ones for like in the last year or 2, I think, where like they sent them as like towards the end they started selling like RPGA boxes, and that was the adventure in the RPGA box, and it was all, it had a cover and everything else of that. I remember that being one of the few towards the end that were actually located in Greyhawk, from what I remember. But there was no interactive that I can remember being purely in Greyhawk.
Right. And I think if we were to have a Living Greyhawk reunion con, if you made the interactive in the free city, that alone, and just tell people, I'm just spitballing here with you guys while I got you as a captive audience. Make a 5th level, 3.5, core rulebooks only PC, stat build, blah, 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 blah. You know, we could come up with a 1-pager sheet for the rules. Everyone shows up with a 5th level PC. All the adventures are APL 5, or you know what I mean? It could be done. It's a dream I have.
That will be fun. Yep.
So, yeah, you could have them from different regions, and they can get paraded out.
And they could have different things from their region. And you could just have one thing from the Bandit Kingdom, one thing from Veluna.
Yeah.
You know, one meta org or something. Who knows? Whatever.
So guys,
anyway,
I'm at my last leg. I'm sorry.
You're fine. Yeah.
So let's do the following. We're definitely going to have you back and go into depths on the meta orgs in the future. Okay, let's do that. We really didn't touch that. Talk about maybe interactions more with Ket and Bissell, because we know there was some of that going on. Give me, we'll do the top 3. Give me a great memory you have and what you're doing now in gaming, whether you're just playing in groups or, you know, just, so Tim, we'll start with you there. Give me a great fondest memory of the sessions at Living Greyhawk and what's going on with you in your gaming time now.
Okay, probably I would say the fondest memory, because I have quite a few of them, is probably being the only person to make out alive in Elemental Evil at the special there. Only because Chris Tulloch was the DM. And
Chris is good fun.
Yeah, and it was definitely hard, and we went in there and didn't do the greatest, but I remember because I was a monk, that was the only reason why I was able to outrun pretty much the whole temple to get out of there, and having to do that. And my other friends all died in it, and the other people we had at the table. But I just remember all that, but also just traveling and meeting all the people. And also when I was a circle, like just going to the different conventions, going to Anaheim. I know there's more than one, but watching just meeting all the people and seeing and DMing a wide variety of people, and hopefully letting them have some fun. And then right now for gaming, right now I play twice a week, and I DM if you know Free League, like the Forbidden Lands, and they have the sci-fi, that Free League. It's there, the D6 one. We play a lot of that. It's mainly what I do right now, as well as some other things too. But for the most part, that. So I write with that one.
Very, very cool. Well, I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yeah, thanks,
I
Tim.
really do. I really do.
Yeah, no problem.
And the other 2 gentlemen, wow, just hopping on last second. I really appreciate it. Lynn, what do you got there? What do you want to discuss?
The arms race was a real thing. And my memory was from the first module I wrote for Veluna, The Reaping. We called it the Jelly Donut Door. During this period, there was a lot of adventurers that had got access to adamantine. And they were using the adamantine to break through all the doors and just bypass traps that you would put on doors and stuff like this. So I made a Jelly Donut Door, which is basically a big steel door that had a targeted, maximized 15th level acid arrow, true striked, for whatever went through the panel of the front door. And this monk, who was a 15th level monk, he decided with his adamantine fist that he would punch through the door because they couldn't figure out how to open the door. And so he took 86 points of damage from this maximized acid arrow. And he said after the module, he says, that was the first time I had been hit in a year and a half.
Wow.
Take that, Luke Gygax.
Wow. That's some good cheese. I love it. Your trap, I mean.
Yeah, we had a lot of that.
He couldn't dodge it. He couldn't dodge it. It's an arrow.
True strike.
Oh,
Plus 20 to its attack roll.
okay.
Yeah, it was like plus 32 to a touch AC. So.
And even if he's a high level monk, he's not going to be touch AC like 42.
Wow.
Oh, it was 40. I had to roll high to hit him.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he was a 15th level monk, and I think his AC was almost 50.
Oh, he had it tweaked out for it. Wow.
Yeah, he was one of those min maxers.
Yeah.
And obviously, the sun memory was one of my other better ones.
Mhm.
Very cool. What are you doing now?
Actually, Dave and I are in the same gaming group.
Oh,
Our gaming group had been postponed due to COVID, and our very first session post-COVID is this Saturday.
Oh, cool.
That's
What are
great.
you guys playing?
We're playing an Adventure Path and Pathfinder first edition.
Cool.
I like 1E. That's what I went to after 3.5, but now I'm in 5E. Which adventure path in Pathfinder? We'll give Mona and
Warlords.
Bullman some love.
Dave, help me out here.
Carrying Crown.
Oh, okay.
oh,
Carry
Okay.
Crown, yeah. Some of the
That's
earlier
good.
ones.
Yes.
I forget where it is in the sequence or whatever, but yeah, we're just getting back to that about 5th level.
Yeah.
6th level.
Cool.
We're supposed to be doing 6 level characters on Saturday.
Great to hear. It's always good to play in person. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to get back to that. Been out for a while.
So, David, what are your thoughts?
I was trying to think of a specific. I don't know that I have a specific memory. I'll go back with what Tim said. It was just meeting lots of different people and playing with lots of different people and all that kind of experience. And I do have some fond memory of making a paladin run away from a rust monster.
That's fun.
That was fun. And I think it was the same player had a character carried away by a gnome carried away by a giant bat, but something like that. You know, little fun things like that, but mainly the people.
Right. I mean, we all met people who probably, like you two, are still in each other's lives and friends.
It's great.
My friend Britt, who's over in Korea, he was a circle member for I used in the later years BK Triad. He was in my first wedding, you know, just a couple of years ago. It's just the people, and I'm still in touch with a lot of them on Facebook. So that's really, to me, is the legacy of living Greyhawk, the friends we made.
Yep. That's
So-
I
what
ended up
Good.
most of the other people in the game that Lynn mentioned is our ex-living Greyhawk people. I mean, it's the other Brian, the other Triad member, and then Tom, who's our unofficial fourth Triad person, is running it. So other, Lynn's wife and son are playing, so it's all other friends we played. It's all XLG people, pretty much.
It's great. It's really good. I mean, there's nothing better. Nothing better than keeping. Like I
Mhm.
said, my group has been playing 42 years. So, same
wow.
group since one since '78, 3 since 1980. So, one, a couple of them are in the audience. Yep. Except not tomorrow night now. So, yeah.
So, yeah, Jay, you need to get some of this Afrin stuff. I had COVID a month ago, right?
Dude, I'm
when we
taking-
had the.
Yeah, I'm taking so much stuff right now, man.
Oh, this stuff will clear your sinuses and nose up for you. That's what got me through COVID.
Cool.
last month.
Well,
Highly recommend.
I'll take a look. I appreciate it. So, Casey and I will do some quick shout outs, and I'll say what's going on, hopefully, and then we'll do the giveaway, and we'll call it a night here. So, I hope you guys had fun with this. I really appreciate you coming on this discussion. Like I said, we're going to continue this, delve deeper, and we'll set up a time in the future. Casey will work that out, and we'll get.
I'll get you the super secret Discord link through Tim.
Okay.
Elfgren TV's asking if are the Veluna Gazetteers available. So, someone wants to reach out to Elfgren, that would be appreciated.
Okay.
Okay, Elfgren_TV. So, Casey, what's going on?
Not much. Just thanks again. Thanks to the audience. These are really great shows, but thanks to Tim, Lynn, and David for coming on and talking Veluna with us. Really appreciate it. Without us, there would be no memorializing of living Greyhawk, right? Wizards of the Coast kind of has swept it under the rug as they move forward with 5e and whatnot. So for me, I'm currently working on a project I call Too Many Gods. I've talked about this in the past. I'm taking all the pantheons of Greyhawk and I'm smooching them down. If two gods look alike, but they're in two different races or cultures, to me, that's one god. So I'm still working on that project, and I hope to submit it to the Earth Journal when I complete it. Just a little side gig. I'm running some the Bandit Kingdom Tournament 2 at Virtual Greyhawk Con in October, but this time I'm running it in 5e. So I'm working on the conversions of that. So, guys, I took some Living Greyhawk Bandit Kingdoms adventures, and I've been running them online as tournament-style adventures for the past few years, and they're great fun to do that. Various audience members here have done it. My home campaign, I've got 2 home campaigns. My Ghosts of Saltmarsh group, they're like 9th and 10th level now, and we're starting our 4th year of this campaign with 8 PCs. We had 9 PCs, 1 dropped.
That's a lot.
So it's pretty bonkers, and they're currently doing some underwater stuff. I actually took a Candlekeep Mysteries adventure, I think, and converted it to use in this campaign. And then speaking of Candlekeep Mysteries, my other campaign is a Candlekeep Mysteries, what I call Scooby-Doo, where each adventure is its own little standalone like mystery, and the PCs all work in Candlekeep. And then, you know, a book falls out of the stacks and then plot ensues. We're having a good time with that. But right now, that group is doing I2, Tomb of the Lizard King,
Nice one.
that I have converted to 5e somewhat on the fly. And I changed the lizard folk to Yon Tai or Yon T, however you pronounce it. So the snake vibe works really well with the original Lizard King vibe of the adventure. So that's really what I've been up to. And then if you like the Earth Journal, I think the last one I had published my article about Seaton. So if you're doing Ghosts of Saltmarsh or Keelan stuff, look for that. Gary Holy was very kind enough to help me with that Seaton art.
Anna, what's up?
Prepping for Virtual Greyhawk Con. And so I have to apologize to everybody for being kind of radio silent. It's not because I'm not doing anything. It's because I want to keep something for my seminars and stuff and prepping for the games, because this is the first time I will be streaming games. So damn, I want them to be good. So I've been prepping, and now I will prep a bunch of characters. I have a whole slew of monsters and NPCs and stuff, and they should all have their stat blocks, and they should all have their portraits and stuff like that. So after that there will be a whole stuff, because then I will release all that material to my patrons and to the whole Greyhawk community. So there will be way more stuff afterwards, but I don't want to release it before we run the adventures, so to speak, because I don't want to spill the beans. So that's why there will be a bit of a hiatus, so to speak. So, and it's also very, very hot in Southern California. We have power problems and stuff that from time to time too. So we have 150 degrees and 15 degrees and a lot of high humidity. The humidity is going down. The temperatures will go down on Friday, what we hear. But we have a fire 15 miles away, but it's a bit of smoke, but no problem here. So yeah.
So tomorrow night obviously is postponed a week. So Narwhal Headhunter Group, Battle at the Bridge, 1 week pushback. Not having a game tomorrow night. My guys are not coming to the house with my wife and me having COVID, so that's out. But I'm hoping I'll be okay for running this where they're all remote in. I got the Ed Greenwood group, a 2-drink minimum. The New God is the name of the adventure. So Anna will be on that with Eric Mengi, Tony Winslow Brill, Eric Boyd, Ed himself, and special guest Chuck Gumbo from Troller Games. That'll be at 6 p.m. Saturday. And then hopefully I got 2.5 days, I guess, of recovery. And then Sunday night, we're going to finish up our Wall of Fame deep dive. Finally finish that up with Tomocon, Ghost Tower, and the Salt Marshes that are on my Wall of Fame, my 24 adventures. And that'll finish up the week. So fun times there. Thank you, everyone, for persevering with all my coughing and stuff.
Yeah, Jake, get some rest.
Yeah.
Drink some whiskey and feel better.
Thank you very much, man. I feel
feel better.
Yeah, this is the worst I've felt in a while here. So let's do the giveaway. Last call. I'm going to close it out. You get if you're out of the country. I got a couple. Troller Games digitals. But either you get this pack, Border Watch and UK1, Crystal Cave. These are all reprints, of course. Or let's go Drow, D1, 2, and 3. Okay, all in reprint. All right, here we go. The winner is Curtis right in, and here Stefan right in at the end here. Let me make sure I don't hit a wrong button here for this. The winner is tonight Fraley. Is Fraley on to claim?
Congratulations.
He's on. Fraley, just tell me which one you want, and we are good. All right, Fraley, you tell me which two. All right. I know I saw him in there. We're gonna raid into Crane tonight. Crane writes, and she's yeah, I'm going 21 hours. Well, I'm off the next 2 days because just for being ill, and yeah. All right, I got you, Fraley. I got your address too. Tim, Lynn, David, everyone, Casey, Anna, thank you. Really
thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jay.
Awesome
Appreciate
to have
it,
you.
and
Thank you, Jay.
We'll see you all. See you all soon. Casey will organize something, and everyone have a good night. Sit tight. Let's raid into Crane Wrights, and please, she's really cool. Played in the Slav Squad game, and the new recruits sometimes. So give her a follow when we get there. All right, everyone have a good one. Let me set that
Good
up.
night.
And that cut out. I think that was David.
I
Or
said
Lynn.
good night.
Oh, sorry, my audio was cutting out a little bit. Oh, thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, anytime
Really appreciate
you
it.
want it on.
Yeah, definitely. And let's we'll delve in a little bit more. See if we get the meta orgs. All right, 88, awesome. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good night, everybody.
See ya. Guys, sorry for bolting out about 15 minutes early. I'm just
No, dude, you were.
I'm trashed.
Yeah, you were a hero. Excuse me, my cat got in my face. Well, I put my face in my cat's face.
I'm glad